Welcome back again to a Triplo AI video. Today, I'm going to address something that many of you often ask is how can I write like long form content with Triplo AI? As I'm always 100% transparent with you, Triplo AI was not designed to be a support for writers. I know pretty much nothing about writing long form content. I'm a terrible SEO blogger. I don't know how to write books or anything like that. It's not something I do often. And I didn't thought of Triplo for that. But it can be done. When I say Triplo AI is very flexible, I mean it. And I'm going to share with you how I think of Triplo AI working for you writers. So I got a couple of questions on group and also on AppSumo of people asking, how could I do that? And this is my experiment in a sense. So writing, rewriting, improving, working on long form content. And for this, I think that when you're writing or working on a book or long form content, you probably need to draft sections or chapters. And I believe the most important thing when you're writing this sort of content is that you got your style, your tone, patterns that you use when you're writing. So you don't want to um, your book to look like a patchwork. It should have and hold some consistency. And you probably need to expand or review or rewrite content that you already worked on. Because I know that there are lots of layers on when you're working in a draft. And there are lots of things that I don't know, and you can, um, after watching this video, share with us. So feel free to share in the comments. So, what are the tools or the features on Tripwire that you could use? So awareness is a must. I'm 100% sure that this is one of the most important things because context is what will allow AI to build continuity on the content that you already generated. And I'll show this to you in a moment. Instructions are very, very important because is with instructions that you get this style, tone, and patterns. And I'll show you how I would approach this. Custom smart prompts are always something that can help you save time. And maybe depending on the way that you're building the book and how technical it is and how can you like bring existing content to your new writing or new content, you may be using something like Minds or Training. Let me begin with the beginning. When you're thinking about continuity and the style and not losing uh, the quality of what you're building because it's things just don't connect and you don't want to spend that much of time. What I suggest you is that you build an instruction that reflects the way you write. And how can you build a good instruction? So I'm going to share an example with you. This is a prompt that I built just to get content that you already have. So your sort of sample of contents and analyze it and put it to work for you. So what it does, it gets content that you share with AI and ask for it to act as a writing style expert and evaluate the tone, the style, diction, sentence structure, syntax, figurative language, rhythm, sound patterns, rhetorical techniques. So lots of angles or variables or vectors coming from the way you write and then describe it because this way you can pick this description and feed AI with it as an instruction so it can mimic this style in the future. So let me show exactly what I'm talking about. So here I have um, a sample of a book, a very famous Brazilian book called Captains of Sand. And the author is kind of very interesting. I really like it. It's for teenagers, but the way he writes is very like precise and typical. It's his style is very different from the rest. And what I can do, I can go back to my sample and I'll just copy this and then I'll get to the sample of the writing of this sample, and I'll paste it here. And for the sake of simplicity and saving some space, I'll put everything together, and then I'll select a sample that it can analyze. In this case, I'm getting like a couple of paragraphs. I could use like multiple pages. Models nowadays are capable of gathering or working on large samples. So now let's see how this goes. And you'll see that it's like capturing the way this author works. So it's evocative in the tone, blends nostalgia and creating and vivid atmosphere and so on. So it's sometimes it even mentions like a couple of characters and the name of the book, but this doesn't matter in the end. What you need to do, you copy this and then build an instruction, and I'll say I'm the author, and here is the way I want Triplo AI to respond. And I'll say, and I'm even expanding it here. So um, the instruction will be the author, and I'm telling I'm the author working on the draft of a book. The story happens in Bahia, Brazil, in the 50s. And then I'll add this style in the way that I want Triple H to respond. And I'll show you how this affects the results. So let me save it here. So it's the author. And let me clear the canvas here. Isn't it? Is it? Oh, it's shift backspace to clear. So now I'll ask something very simple. Um, so I just asked the AI to tell me a story about a kid in a single paragraph. So I'll put single here. And I don't have the instruction active. So it's going to be as generic as possible. See, once upon a time in a small, vibrant town, there lived a curious boy named Leo who had, and so this is pretty like plain and generic. But if I activate the instruction here and I'll be the author and I just ask for it to regenerate, you'll see that I'm not really that experienced in English, but I can see um, even the choice of words is different now because Miguel stood at the edge of the crumbling dock, his bare feet brushing against the cool, damp woods. So it's much deeper and in a sense, I can tell that much more related to the sample that I just shared. So this is the first and one of the most important things. So now let's jump into the other things that we should address. So um, when you're working on this long form, one of the things that you probably will do is like creating new paragraphs out of something that you already um, worked. So it's like continuing a section or a chapter or something like this. And just for the sake of simplicity, let's leave a custom smart prompt ready so one can work on this. So here I call it this new custom smart prompt, call it new paragraphs. And it says in a very simple way, I'm working on a draft of my book and the instruction will already help add into this. And I want you to suggest me the following three paragraphs, knowing that I want the story to follow this path. I'll show you how to work on this, but let's build this custom smart prompt. So I'll add it here. I'll call it, I want a new one, so I'll call it new paragraphs. It's ready. So now I'll clear everything here and I'll show you an example. So if I am um, working on this book and I want Tripwire to continue this story from here, I could select what I already wrote, bring triple to the screen, see that I have the author instruction there, but I can use what I selected as context. And I can call this March prompt and say new paragraphs and say, I want a new. So in this case, I'm putting myself in the story. I'm the older guy and I'm helping the kids. This is a story about kids catching out of the sun. But I want to tell them how AI can help them. So note that I added context. So I'm adding these paragraphs as context. I have the instructions to tell how to write and what's the story about. And I'm using new paragraphs to bring this custom smart prompts and help AI to put everything together. Let's see how this goes. It's fine. It's funny to see myself in the story. Here, AI is telling that as the sun dipped down the horizon, casting long shadows across the cobblestone streets of Bahia, a new figure emerged from the twilight. A man named Felipe. He was not a stranger of the word of the captain of the sands. For he had once wondered there were very alleys and so it's very interesting because I don't know exactly what's the point of the story that they are, but this should merge quite well if I placed it right after it. So if I wanted to continue the story here, this would be a kind of nice. Yeah, I need to place without formatting, I think. Yeah. So um, this should blend quite well, and you would be like continuing the story that you already wrote. So this is kind of interesting and nice way of continuing stories. One of the things that I didn't cover yet is that you may need to start from the ground up. So in a blank sheet, you need to start working on your content. And for this, you could use something uh, kind of like of what we already have, but you start exploring with a larger Canva in this case. So plain blank sheet, you could come and say, so here I'm starting out of nothing. So I'm asking for AI to suggest me stories that relates to teenagers in Bahia, Brazil, and happens around the 50s. So I'm feeling like George Amado, thinking about the story when it was not there yet, and I could prompt it directly on Triplo AI. If I have the sample of the author, this would help. With the instruction as the author, this would like blend these suggestions with the expertise of the author. But what I could do, I could take some of this and say something like, and now I'm going to do something different. So as you know, we now have hotkeys. And I have a hotkey, which is this one, Control Alt Backspace, that runs AI whenever I hit it. So I'm not going back to the UI. I'm going to hit Control Alt Backspace, and note that my indicator here turned orange. So AI is processing, and it will get back to my screen with the suggestion of chapters. So now I have one, two, three, 10 chapters that I could use to write my story. Teenagers in the 50s in the state of Bahia, Brazil. From it, I could start working and asking for something like, oh, and I can even use new my smartphones. So let's see if this works. So I have Control to backspace, and it should suggest me 3 paragraphs that starts this story. So now I have chapter 1, the first 3 paragraphs, and I can um, do it again, but now I need the UI. So I can say, sorry, let me clear it here. I can say context. So I have these 3 chapters, and I can say new paragraphs and ask for a specific direction. So I'm like Bahia is a state related to like African religions and stuff in Brazil. So I'm asking for it to start blending religion into these chapters. So now I have chapters relating to Candomblé, which is the uh, Brazilian African religion, and it's preparing the text to get to the pulse of Candomblé, which is chapter 2. So out of the blue, with a simple idea and the characteristics of the author, we could start building a book with the chapters and then starting writing the paragraphs. And you could work on this and keep like expanding this as you wish. The last thing that I wanted to share with you that might be helpful is also on the hotkeys. Let's say you want to rewrite existing things. So let me jump here um, to the original Jorge Amado book. But let's say you need to rewrite lots of paragraphs and stuff. You can set a hotkey for that. So let's do it. So here I'm jumping onto my Triplo AI, and I'll set a new hotkey. I'll use Control Window, let's say down, and I can use a custom smart prompt or existing one. So I'll use rewrite or rephrase, I think that's the way I call it. Rephrase, so long rephrase. So if I select a paragraph and hit Control Window key and down, it should rewrite my contents in a long form. So let's try it here. There you go. It's orange. It should return me a long rewriting, and it's also respecting the instruction about the author. It's kind of rewriting in the shape of this guy. And let's try it again. It should expand this to a longer form. Let's see. So I'm creating more and more and more content. And of course, you know that we don't trust AI that much. You are the one important here. So you should read and proofread what AI is generating. But these are, in general, the tools that I would use to better generate content in the long form, especially those working with like books and long trainings and stuff. The last thing, and I almost forgot about it, why did I mention that you may be using training or minds? Because depending on the topics that you're addressing on your book, it's good to have a knowledge base that could help you not miss an important step of a process or details about products and stuff like that. So you can use training to enrich, because every time that you're generating something with a mind active, whenever it's relevant for that generation, the Triple AI will pick up the content from the training database and feed AI with that content. So this will help you get better results. And that's it, guys. So I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, drop us a message. We are always here, happy to help you whenever we can. Take care. Bye bye.